Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 20 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again, absolutely free. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you choose to tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we help people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we'd appreciate you doing so. You can do that by emailing me. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. Or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or a comment from you through an email, we'll address it on the internet show. And then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody does that because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be a service, and that's just boatloads easier to do when we know how these things are landing for you. So please feel free to let us know. And if you're able to join us live and you want to tap into the show as it's happening, all you need to do is go to zoom.us, and once there, either use one of their phone numbers and dial up. For instance, the Chicago-based phone number is 312-626-6769, but there are a variety of others with different area codes. And then once you dial that number, all you need to do is enter our meeting ID, which is 853-2357-4173. 853-2357-4173. And once you do that, whether you're through a browser window or on your phone, you can listen in, or if you're live through the Zoom app, you can chat or type in the chat or unmute yourself or share your video, whatever you prefer. And as I said, we appreciate when people do that because it just makes it a lot easier for us to live into our intention with this work. And the intention we have is to be of service. As a way of trying to be of service, I will direct people's attention to podcast. I think I mentioned it before. The podcast is titled Radically Genuine, and it's run by Dr. Roger McFillin, who's a psychologist. And the episode I would refer you to is the one that he did where he interviewed Eben Alexander, who was a neurosurgeon who used to believe that consciousness for a human being was the byproduct of random neural firings. And then he had his own near-death experience, and he had a vivid, powerful, extensive experience lasting days during a period of time when our current stage of medical science says his brain was dead. And the part of his brain that would traditionally have been believed to give rise to these random neural firings was not functioning and was biologically, was enveloped in infection. And so one of the many things that comes out of an interview like that, so here you have a present day psychologist who talks a lot about wanting to stick close to the science and end misinformation, and he's really banging the gong about informed consent and all that stuff. So here he is interviewing somebody that says, you know what? There really isn't any doubt about life after death or reincarnation. He says it's been proven scientifically. He says there's been enough research done where people claim to have been reincarnated from a previous life where they went back and put the pieces together and they found the person, right? They found the history of the person as they existed, the life they had, the relationships they had. And so Eben Alexander is portraying that as rock solid evidence that there is an afterlife and that there is reincarnation. Now, something I believe? No, it's not necessarily a belief with me, and yet it's a fascinating discussion about the fact that you're not just your physical body, and that there's a way in which you are receiving information from sources other than just your five senses. And you might want to tap into that interview. It's fascinating. I'm most of the way through it. It's about an hour interview. And it brought me to mind of the idea about how powerful our perception is, and about how our perception is not limited just to the five senses. So those factors which influence the pictures my mind shows me are not just the factors that come in through my five senses. It's beliefs, it's trauma energy, it's emotional stuff, it's energetic influence in the air around me. All of this can, and I would say should be taken into account when I'm trying to understand how am I creating an understanding of life that I'm creating in this moment. I've talked over the years about different reality management worksheets I did, which led to a dramatic shift in my perception of events. So my memory of the event stays the same in terms of what day did it happen, who was there, what did they say, what did they do. And yet the impact on me the meaning I gave it and the emotions I would generate in response to it changes dramatically. And I was talking to somebody recently who had an experience like that, where they were with a person in a relationship, and it's going in a very pleasant way, and the relationship's going, and all of a sudden, this person that I'm talking to looks out at his partner and starts to see her completely differently and is annoyed with everything she says and has an urge to leave. But he's been doing this work long enough to know that that shift wasn't that she just turned into a monster. That shift was a shift inside him, fundamentally rooted in the process of perception, and that his mind is literally serving up images to him that are colored or tainted with an interpretation that's negative, that he doesn't have to buy into, that he doesn't have to keep producing. And in that moment, as we've talked about before, he could just do the mental short version of the reality management worksheet that's available on the mindshiftersacademy.org website. And he could just recite in that moment, okay, let me scan my body and notice what the feeling is I have going on here. And then let me just ask myself, what thought am I using to create that feeling? And then let me just ask myself, what's the goal contained in that thought that's not getting met? And if I just practice relaxed breathing while I say the words, I cancel the thought and the goal and ask to be shown the hidden part of my mind that's actually creating this upset, I can get access to things that I can't get access to if I think I already know what's going on. When I bring that I know mindset into a moment with me, the one thing I can truly know in that moment is I won't be learning anything new. When I bring the I know mindset into a moment with me, or when I let it come up in the middle of a moment, the only thing I can truly know in that moment is I won't be learning anything new. If I focus on what I know, if I pour my mind energy into how it's important to know and to be right, etc., then I craft or create for myself a specific type of life experience in that moment. And all the outside factors can stay the same, and I can just shift from the I know to the I don't know, to the not knowing mindset. And if I do it in that next moment, my experience of life will be transformed. Radically transformed. Dr. Michael Rice has recently said on his internet show that for recently in his life, he's gotten to the point where for an hour or 2 or 3 in the morning, he can just sit and just be quiet. And it's probably not in the least bit a coincidence that when you, if you choose to listen to the interview with Eben Alexander, you'll basically hear him say the same thing. And along with that, he says that he uses the material that's available at sacredacoustics.com. And I just have to warn you that acoustics has only one C in it. Sacredacoustics.com. And I'm only mentioning it here now because I went and explored it a little bit, and there's an intro package that they will let you have of these materials absolutely free. So you just enter a name and an address, email address, and they'll send you a link to download some samples of these sound preparations they've made, which are supposed to be beneficial for meditation, insight, intuition, etc. So sacredacoustics.com with one C. And it's just an invitation at another level from another really bright person who's working hard to be the best person they know how to be, or working hard to learn how to be a better person, however you want to word that, where they're advocating for and they're talking about the benefits of their practice of setting aside time to just be quiet. And this is the deep meditation practice kind of thing that Christian Sundberg did to let himself tap into whatever he needed to tap into. And all of a sudden he has a memory. Oh my gosh, I had this this pre-physical life experience. I chose to come here. I had a planning session. I had previous attempts. I had all this memory that opened up to him through his deep meditation practice. And he was nudged in that direction by Thomas Campbell, who wrote about spirituality and meditation and our theory of everything, how every one of us somehow or another creates a rationalization that allows us to tolerate the ambiguities in life and the ebb and flow and the seemingly random nature of life. We make up reasons for it. Our minds are, you might say, they're programmed to try to find answers and try to find rationalizations and try to make sure that we find the right words for it and the concepts for it that neatly contain this experience of life. And that's why Thomas Campbell writes about, the My Big Toe series, my big theory of everything. And that's why people like Christian Sundberg and Thomas Campbell or Eben Alexander, Michael Rice are touting the benefits of long stretches of silence on a regular basis. And if you do nothing else, if you just stop for a moment and just think about how the culture you were raised in is either designed around or at the opposite end of the spectrum from the culture that says, just take an hour or two every day and relax and just be with your thoughts and don't do anything. Don't go fishing. Don't go for a bike ride. Don't go for a hike. Don't do your photography work. Don't make a gourmet meal. Just sit or lie quietly and watch your mind. Understand more about your true nature. Ask the question about who you really are and what is going on in this existence that you're experiencing and how that experience is being created. I hope you can fairly easily see that's literally the opposite end of the spectrum from the culture we were raised in. I actually have so many memories throughout my life of people saying, I was just sitting there and I was being quiet or I was looking off into space or I was praying or I was meditating or whatever. And somebody comes in and says, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time doing this? It reminds me of the story of the man in, it's probably down in Bonaire or one of those Caribbean islands. And he was laying in a little, you know, it was seaworthy, but it was not new. It was not well polished. It was not shiny. It was just this solid wooden sturdy boat. But he's laying in it with his hat pulled down over his face and his feet up and his hands behind his back, just resting or taking a nap. And a much larger, fancier boat, hundreds of thousands of dollars, pulls up to the dock, and the guy gets off. And as he's walking out, he stops and he decides to try and ridicule this guy. So, what are you doing just laying there? Just think, you know, you could be making money, you could be busy, you could be out fishing. The fish are running right now. Why aren't you out there fishing? And the man says, well, why would I do that? Well, so you can have money. Why would I do them? Well, you can get a bigger boat. Oh, why would I do that? Well, you can make more free. You can hire other people and make more money. And why would I do that? So you could have so much money that you could just retire and just do whatever you want. He said, the guy laying in the boat says, I'm already doing that. There's a clash of cultures, right? Here is the culture of doing and accomplishment and accumulation, hoarding, if you will, that has to clash with most indigenous cultures, which have struck some kind of a balance between their needs for existence and the smooth flow of nature around them, right, in their environment. Some cultures have developed a much better symbiotic or sympathetic relationship with their environment than others. And we are a culture that does not fit in that category. We do not mesh well with the environment, internal or external. And so here's an invitation to go in and explore your internal environment more often, regularly, in using whatever tools work for you. Like Eben Alexander says, the audio files that are available at sacred acoustics.com with one C have really helped him in that inner exploration. And so, okay, maybe that's something that somebody on this call will decide to experiment with. Either way, whether you're doing it with an audio file augmentation or some kind of a meditative device, the invitation is, let's explore some more about different ways to get an understanding of what is your true nature. What sense of purpose have you created for yourself? And if you haven't explicitly done that, there's another invitation to create a sense of purpose for yourself. I just got another call. Yes.
You said Eben Alexander used that acoustic thing?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was Michael Rice. Or are they both using it?
No, I don't believe Michael Rice uses it.
Okay, I misunderstood or misheard. Okay.
What I'm saying is that Michael has been talking about, he's mentioned several times in the past year or so, that he has gotten into a routine now, especially since he's been doing his quantum still point stuff, that he'll spend an hour or 2 or 3 just being awake and sitting there in the morning, right? Or breathing himself or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that here's another person who says, here's the value, here's the importance of, here's an invitation to just relax and slow down and stop doing and practice the art of being.
And the book Radically Something by...
No, it's not a book. It's the podcast, Radically Genuine by Roger McFillin.
Okay, thanks.
Radically Genuine.
All right, got it.
And I interviewed him, and I've sent him several people to interview since then because of the big theme that he's banging the gong on is that our current system for identifying problems, labeling them as diagnoses, as illnesses, and then coming up with treatments that primarily focus on medication, is destroying our culture in a way. It's destroying our sense of humanity. It's misdirecting us away from our true nature, and it's heading us down a path that's got no good solution at the end. You can't you can't, there is no such thing in this sense as better living through medication, right? Or through chemistry.
Yeah.
Better living through chemistry is one of the
Right.
phrases we heard a lot when Prozac
Yeah.
came out and things like
Mhm.
that. And those might be useful tools for people in certain situations. And however, what's absolutely clear is that it is not the bullet, the silver bullet, the magic wand that it was promoted to be
Mm.
by the drug companies. And at that time in I think it was the 80s that Prozac came out. And so it doesn't mean there aren't any solutions. It just means that a simple taking of pills is not the solution for 99.999% of the people.
The only purpose I found in taking Prozac for the period of time that I did was that it took me to a functional level. I was really in such a bad state that I needed some help. And then when I got it, I was able to start working and then get off of it. But I didn't get off of it until I started the radio show. I was on it for about 10 years. And it took a kind of edge off so that I wasn't in a almost non-functional state. It was a
Yeah, and
family.
that's all right, and that's
Yeah.
the benefit for it, right? If you're using
Mhm.
it in that way, and if that taking the edge off, as you say, results in a person having a little bit more mental energy, a little bit more clarity, a little bit more willingness to get out of bed and get active, what I tell people is when that happens, then it makes it so that person can take advantage of the tools like the ones you
Right.
learned, the ones that
Mhm.
Michael offers. And yet, what's absolutely clear is there is not a fundamental lack of Prozac in that person's system that's causing their problems.
Right. Whatever it was helpful, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah, but it's not that, it's, oh, here's a problem. You don't have enough sodium in your diet.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't that. Maybe it was even a placebo. I
Well,
took a
that's it.
pill.
That's
Yeah.
if you read the book, Suggestible You,
Hmm.
by Eric Vance, he poses that question.
Yeah.
Like, how can we ever truly sort out the belief effect or placebo effect
Hmm.
that any person is getting from any medication they're given? In other words, if we live in a culture where we're all primed to believe the doctor is there as your friend, the doctor has answers, she's studied hard, she knows what's best for you. When you take the pills she gives you, you will get better. If we're living in that culture,
Mm.
and now from a scientific perspective, you want to figure out how much of the improvement any person gets from this pill comes from the chemical action of the pill interacting with the chemistry of the body, and how much comes from this person's belief that what their doctor tells them is true and is going to make them better. How are you ever going to suss that?
Mm.
Well,
Right.
the answer is we haven't yet.
Yeah.
So what if, as they say, you've got
The other option
30.
is I can take some of those orange steaks and just steak
Hold on a minute,
this
Sally,
whole.
we're hearing
Oh,
you.
sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
So the other option is that we assume there's a placebo effect with everything that
Right.
that simply augments if there is an actual therapeutic impact from a medication that my doctor gives me because she knows what's going on, it is either enhanced or minimized or blocked from working altogether based on my mental energy. That's the point here, right? If I
Right.
believe she's out to get me and she's
Hmm.
trying to poison me,
Right.
it's going to be, they're going to have to shove that pill down my throat. And then I could still, even if there's nothing bad in the pill and it's the right thing I can still generate negative symptoms, what they call, bad side effects. And he talks about it in that book. There's a very well documented example where they did a double blind study about a medication. And then, of course, the rules of those research programs is that after the fact, a certain amount of time, it has to be written up in the study. Maybe it's 2 years, I forget exactly. They have to notify the participants of the study about whether or not they received the actual medication or a placebo.
Mm.
And in that study, what they found is the people in the placebo group, try to wrap your mind around this, they experienced more negative side effects than the group that got the actual medication.
Wow. Mm.
So that's how powerful our minds are, right?
Mm.
Here are people who never got the medication, but they are reporting more negative side effects than the people that got the medication.
I wonder if they had read a list of possible side effects and then they went and got them.
Yeah, well, that's what we're saying. Whether they read them or not, or whether
Yeah.
they just, their anxiety about the possibility that they might have them generated it, but it's
Right.
mind energy that created it, is the point.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And so, as Eric Vance says in that book, Suggestible You, well, so then how do we tease out what percentage of every medication that works is the result of the person believing that they're going to be taking something that helps them?
Mm. Yep. Mm. Can't be done.
Yeah, well, if it can, we haven't sorted it out yet. Our science
Right.
isn't that sophisticated yet.
Mm. So I have a question, but it's not
Okay,
related to what you've been talking about.
that's fine. What is
All
it?
my all my life, as soon as I started looking into my past, Tim Bingham said to me, and I've had two therapists say to me, until you feel really angry at your mother for things she did that were traumatic, you're not going to get well. How do you like that? What's so funny, Dr. Tim?
Well, I mean, basically, what they're saying is they wouldn't be able to get well. Basically, what they're saying is, as they listen to your story about what went on between you and your mother, they're generating really good reasons to generate anger.
Well, yeah, I didn't, of course, know that at the time. So I thought, well, when am I going to get mad? So I was practicing being mad, and it never happened. And it still hasn't happened. And there was one therapist that Tim was working with, Tim Bingham, and he suggested I go. So I took the train from New Haven to New York to this man who, it was a very lively group session. He got me on my back on the floor, straddled me, and spit in my face. I've told this before,
You have, yep.
and I didn't get mad. And he was, why aren't you mad? I said, well, I see that you're trying to work with me, and I appreciate that very much. I just couldn't find mad in the whole thing. So that was the same thing. And believe me, I know how to get mad when I do get mad, but that was like a requirement that I never was able to
Fulfill. Right,
fulfill. And
right. But it's
then,
not a requirement. It's just somebody else's idea.
right. Well, then I heard a podcast. There's a group who've put together teachings of Carl Jung, and they're really good, summarizing his work. And at one point, he said, you don't have to get mad at the person you think you ought to get mad at in order, you don't have to forgive them, is what he said. You don't have to forgive them. Mad being part of that, I guess. But he said, all you need to do is go into your full shadow self, just be with yourself, bring things out into the open, into the light. And I wish I could remember more of what was said, but it was a tremendous, and this only, I heard this about 3 days ago. I thought, oh, good. I don't have to do that in order to get totally
Well, but here's the
Well,
other a little spinner take on it that's just coming to me as you're talking about this. So, when you're talking about that Jungian quote,
yeah,
um, what pops into my mind is something that just went out of my head because somebody else just joined the call and I had to get distracted to let them in. Let's see. Um, so the Jungian quote, the thing about the shadow,
yeah.
right? It'll come back to me here in just a moment.
I hate that when it happens.
Oh, don't hate it. Uh, just accept it as an invitation to take a breath and relax.
Hmm. Okay.
So these people are telling you that you have to do X, Y, and Z or feel this anger or whatever before you heal. And what I said was that's them telling you that based on what they've heard from you
Hmm.
about the interactions with your mother, that they would be generating tremendous rage.
Mm.
And the other thing I wanted to point out before we get too far from it is I've never read a book that said it's therapeutic to spit on your patients. So just so you know,
Yeah.
it's not like that's some little weird corner of psychology. That's just that was this person trying to put their logical understanding onto you and make it work.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
The other
so
part of it
the other
was
part was the young quote you were making about,
that you don't have to forgive them, even.
but you
It's like
have to.
go into your shadow, go into the dark spaces and shine light on them. Things will take care of themselves, is how I understood it. But you have to be very honest with yourself. Doesn't, anyway, don't worry about it, Dr. Tim.
It's all
When it
right.
comes through,
It'll come up in just a moment or two here. It's the idea that, the whole thing, we had a conversation about the shadow, the meaning of the word shadow and its definition in the past week or so, right? On this show, you and I, right?
mm-hmm,
And Jung was questioning. He was willing to be in the question. He was inviting people to be in the question. And well, and the story of Jung that comes up almost every time somebody mentions his name is how he had a reporter come and follow him around to try and interview him, and so he let him be there in a session with permission from the patient or whatever. And at the end of it, the reporter said, "Well, my God, you did this and this and this, and none of that is Jungian." And Jung said, "Well, thank God I'm young and not a Jungian, right?" Which I read as, thank God I'm still living my life in the moment with direct observation rather than trying to be like somebody else or some things I've been in the past. But I'm trying to be awake and aware in the moment and have an active interaction with whoever or whatever is in front of me, rather than be living so explicitly from the past and my mind and my thoughts about what I should do or who I should be in this moment. If I'm stuck in thought, I'm not in the moment. I forget whether that was the internet show yesterday or Friday or whatever, but we had that conversation, right? I can't be in thought and awake and aware in the moment. I can't be in my shoulds because shoulds are always thoughts that have been pre-programmed from the past. And what all of our experience tells us is that life goes better when we're awake and aware in the moment, right? If you fall asleep at the wheel, it's not a good trip.
yeah,
Even if you survive, even if there's a crash and you survive, or even if there's no crash, you wake up a few times having had a nap behind the wheel when your car is going 60 or 70 miles an hour, and it shocks the bejeebies out of you. That's not a fun thing.
Mm.
Well, the same thing with life. If we fall asleep at the wheel, if we go into a moment in trance, thinking, here's who I am, here's the image I want to portray, here's the role these people are supposed to play, here's how this is supposed to unfold, I'm going to get pretty beat up by life because I'm not going to go with the flow. I'm going to be out there beating my head against the brick wall of the way life chooses to unfold.
Right. Have you
May I
heard from
join the conversation?
Hold on just a minute, Celinda. Go ahead, Susan.
just a quick question? Have you heard from Christian Sundberg and his health issue?
Not this week. I heard from him on Thursday or Friday, and my last message to him was that we would keep it open.
Okay.
And my plan is to check with him tomorrow to see what his status is.
Okay. I'll mute.
Okay. Celinda, welcome.
Yes, around the Jung conversation and forgiveness. The minute that Susan shared that referral to Jung with me, I immediately came up with regulatory speech, and my emotional hit was Jung was talking about the wake up worksheet, pure and simple, using totally different words. And that brings me to regulatory speech. I am now at the point, and this is just for this moment in time, that the way I perceive it is that it's both and. Yes, regulatory speech is very, very important, but no one can impose his or her personal regulatory speech on someone else because it won't stick. Because each one of us individually has our own meta message, our own meaning behind the words we speak, which come from our own life experiences. So the connection I made was that Jung was talking about forgiveness, only he didn't know so. If that story that I heard from a friend of mine about him is true, where he was walking to church at 8 years old with his father, and he actually, quote unquote, saw God peeing on the church. And if that's true, then no wonder he's been questioning all his life. And questioning is amazing, even in the waking, walking state, even in the doing of something. It's amazing how simply asking to be shown will bring up a whole different twist of the kaleidoscope for me in what I can see, quote unquote, or what I think I might be seeing, anew, something different, a different way of looking at it. So I wanted to share that with you both.
Okay. And just to clarify, the story you're telling is that you heard some version of when Jung, Carl Gustav Jung, the psychiatrist who was a contemporary of Freud, when he was 8 years old, he saw an image of God urinating on the church.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you said peeing. I just wanted to clarify that it was urinating. Okay.
Right. Yeah, and it's really interesting because when you're 8 years old, you're not going to tell your papa or your mom who are taking you to church what you saw, right?
Well, I don't know.
Anyway.
I don't know.
Maybe,
I think there are plenty of 8-year-olds that would pipe right up. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
The minute I said that, I had to backpedal.
Yeah. But it might be that he, decided it was discretion would be the better part of valor there. We don't know. But
well, I remember he had a falling out with Freud. Big time. They never did come to an agreement with each other.
Well, we just have to marvel when that happens.
Really?
People having falling outs with other people. I wonder how that ever happens. I wonder, since we're all the same, I wonder.
I love it, Dr. Tim. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you know,
I
there's
often wish I had good
yeah.
answers for that. Why some people have falling outs with others and others don't. But I don't. I don't have any good answers for that.
No, but we can keep asking the question, right, and doing our
Or
work.
we can stay in, yeah, we can stay in the observing, questioning state. Yes.
Yeah. I like to call it field work.
Okay.
We're here on this farm, and the host is who owns the farm is doing field work for the Dryland Institute at Oregon State University. And I keep reminding myself, when you're in the field, you're only observing, Celinda. You're not proving anything. Because all evidence, like Michael has said before, and you probably too, all evidence is from the past. Precedent. Look at our whole legislative system. It's based on precedents. Now, that's an awesome thing to ponder.
No, I was doing it yesterday. I don't want to go back there.
Would you get a headache?
I just like I was recounting the very thing you're talking about. My first political science class, they spent plenty of time saying, if you're really logical, you got to leave your logic at the door because the system, our legal system, is not based on logic. It's not based on, getting the truth out there. It's based on precedent. And that was enough to
Oh, it's
deter
about
me from pursuing any kind of a career in political science.
right. And it's all about win and lose. It has nothing to do about fairness or justice. It's about who's going to win and who's going to lose.
Yep. Okay. Enough of that sidebar.
Yes, sir.
Punch the
Back
button on your
to the
little
field.
jukebox and spin the wheel and see what the next topic is.
That would be wonderful. Here it goes. Push.
Okay, what do you got? Do you have another question or a comment, Celinda, related specifically
Oh,
to
I thought
you?
you wanted me to push my mute button.
No, I'm
Nope.
just asking.
I'm yeah. Yeah, comment. I decided no matter how it crunched my time to go ahead and preview and review this from codependence to interdependence. It's a big chunk of commitment, but you know what? I've come to realize that the best way I can keep my part of the relationship working smoothly is to deal with my own stuff, just like
it's not just the
Jonas
best way,
Salk
it's the
said.
only way.
That's right. Better yet. It's like Jonas Salk saying, if you want to be a good parent, be a good ancestor. Or how did he put that quote? The best way to be a good parent is to be a good ancestor. Something like
Well,
that.
something like the most important thing we can do is be a good ancestor.
There you go. I like it. Thank you. And now I will push my button to mute and see where the spin of the kaleidoscope comes next.
All right, thank you.
I'm up in the kaleidoscope.
Welcome, Susan.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for saying discretion is the better part of valor, because I looked up as you were speaking valor, and it is the strength of mind or spirit to encounter danger with firmness. And of course, wanting to understand the definition of danger, exposure of liability or exposure to liability to injury, pain, or harm and loss. And I loved that it said, I didn't really know the definition of valor, but it's the strength of mind or spirit. And that discretion is the better part of that, to know when we're in ego or whether we're in spirit. So thank you.
Yeah, or to know when let's just say to know the limitations of our resources in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so landed. Discretion. Because I know sometimes in my journey, reaching overwhelm in the present moment, so I'm not. And I loved being able to ask the question when talking about Jung, to be curious in the moment. What's this for even? What is this for? Interesting creation. What's showing up and just being that you talked about. I really love that you said to live life in the moment with direct observation and to be awake and aware in the moment with direct interaction in that moment. That's beautiful. And most of us are overlaying the past, our thoughts and our thinking, and we're really not present in the moment. We're filling it in with construct. So I so appreciate that you said that. I'm going to, for the rest of today, my practice is really just to be present and see what gets revealed to me in my observation and see what I can bring in that moment. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And that, that whole patter of thought and the various ways to say it is just what I've distilled out of years of reading and sitting with the Krishnamurti work.
Yeah, I love it. That's the game. That's just to be, that's in conscious creation right there. And then that carbon-based memory of programming of the unconscious is absent. Thought is not needed.
And that's just the weirdest statement, right? I mean, like there are very few people who are been raised in this Western culture who can even wrap their minds around your last statement, where thought is not needed. How do you mean thought is not needed? Thought is everything. Thought is how I get from here to there. Thought is how I feed myself and keep myself safe and feed my kids. And it really is just like it's kind of like being dropped on a different planet or dropped in a different part of this planet with an environment you've just never been exposed to. You have no way to conceptualize how it would work or how you could be okay in that environment or without thought.
Mm-hmm. And isn't, I remember Einstein, or I know I'm probably bastardizing the quote, but where he said you first have to ask the question, whether is the world a hostile place or is it a friendly place? But if you know you can rest in the safety of life, which that's my journey to learning that it will all be revealed in that present moment. Thought is not needed.
Yep.
And in my journey, really it's the unraveling that that my perceptual construct that the world isn't safe, that the mind was created, this human identity was created in that construct. And now to let go, to allow the truth of life, the actuality that it is safe to be.
So have you, when you're talking about safety and you're bringing this up, it's just reminding me of the last chunk of work you did. Is there some kind of fruits of your labor you want to share with us about?
Just recognizing that what you said, and thank you so much when you said, and I've been using that I am safe and secure, independent of my reality. It's moved to that. Not before it was I am safe and
Secure, independent of your finances.
And I did that. So I actually went and took the money out this morning. It's going to be going into my account to pay my debt, which that was hard to do, but I did it. And then, then it's moved into I am safe and secure, independent of my reality, because I can see the higher self is there and the human identity has a different point of view based in fear. And so what I'm reconciling right now, working through that, is that I am safe and secure. This is a story. It's not, that's the reality this human sees is not the actuality of God. So by you giving me that mind shifter statement, it is allowing me to step into the higher identity and be the observer of what's happening in the reality of the human. That's and being there.
Well, congratulations on getting the ability to just take that step with your finances that you know is the right thing.
Yeah.
And congratulations on the willingness to keep looking at the emotional piece of it.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of, and I don't have language for someone. Like yesterday, I cried all day, and this morning as well. I'm not sure why, but even since that, I think it is a big piece, whatever that is, I think is lifetimes old. But I'm now, because I'm moving into the safety of life, I'm trusting the process. Before, I resisted the process constantly and would play the victim a lot. But now I just allow it, what's coming up, it's for its reveal. And curious to what the others were saying, for me, that all of me is invited to exist in my presence. Really, that the shadow, the impatience, the over talking, all of that, whatever the survival strategies were around that, to have space for that to be revealed and to be let go. Yeah, just trusting the process. Yeah.
And as Michael Singer would call us, to learn to just relax.
Mhm.
I say soften and breathe. I say immerse and allow. Michael Singer says, can you just be okay with
Yeah.
whatever unfolds?
Yeah, that's it.
And at another level, he came up with the phrase, learn to prefer whatever happens. Because
Yeah,
it's this idea of parsing things out as being separate and special that creates the prison for us.
mm, that's yeah, and that's the unraveling right now. It's just that I still believe I have to go somewhere. I'm always studying. If you came to my house, I've got like Course in Miracles, Gene Keys. I'm study, study, study. I got to get somewhere. And
Yeah. Yeah. And you can keep doing that all you want, and it won't take you anywhere.
I know there's nowhere to go. We're on a
Right.
journey
And
without
that
distance.
is, there it is, right? Why do they say it's the longest journey that you end up at the end realizing you never went anywhere, right? That it was never anywhere to go.
Yeah, but there wasn't really a
Because
journey over
all of
there.
that stuff is the mind energy in these thought patterns and realities, personal
Yeah.
realities or pictures that I've constructed with their assigned meaning that may not be shared by any other human being on the planet. And yet I'm acting from it as though this is the imperative for all of us as people, like the lemmings off the cliff.
Yeah.
What happens if we slow down and question it? What happens if you breathe into, like the Sylvia Boorstein put the hand on the heart space and breathe in and soften and say, listen, Tim, sweetheart, you're in pain. So just slow down, relax, take a few deep breaths, feel better. Then we'll look at what's going on and then we'll decide what to do. But for now, you don't need to do anything.
Mm,
And you could choose to release your pain. You
yeah.
could choose to quit creating a painful response to this flow of life.
Yeah. I feel like I'm dying to the false self.
Yeah.
I'm really so the truth of me can exist just here now with no expectation, nothing to do, only to be. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
there's a sadness there.
Oh, there ought to be, because the part of your mind that can generate sadness does.
Yeah,
The part of your mind that can generate sadness
does.
does. And in the doing, it creates a sense of its own permanence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Just yeah, I thought that was worth sharing.
Well, I'm delighted. Thank you. Thanks for the update and for your willingness to do the work and share it with the people here. It's a Tuesday, so there will be a support group tonight from 6:30 to 9. All of the information you would need to join us is on mindshiftersacademy.org website. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff that we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Thank you all for